All right, here we go. Chapter 3. Room 201 goes batty. Back in room 201, Mrs. Gleason told us, "This afternoon, we're going to study a nocturnal animal." She looked around the classroom. Would anyone like to tell us what nocturnal means? We know that, don't we? Bobby Solovsky yelled out, "It's an animal that sleeps all day and stays out all night." Mrs. Gleason ignored him. She didn't like it when we called out answers, even when it was the right answer. She called on Danica Starling instead. "Thank you for raising your hand, Danica." As usual, Danica knew the right answer. "Yesterday we talked about owls, Mrs. Gleason said. Today we're going to learn about bats." "Yay, I love baseball," Ralphie Jordan joked. Even Mrs. Gleason had to laugh. Besides, it was hard to get mad at Ralphie Jordan, even when he didn't raise his hand. We talked about what we already knew about bats. Then we gathered in a reading circle. Mrs. Gleason read a book called Bats, Bats, and More Bats. It had really cool pictures. We broke into groups and then made Venn diagrams comparing bats to owls. They were a lot alike. Most bats and owls were predators. They hunted at night. We also listed the ways they were different. That was pretty easy too. Owls are birds. They have feathers. Bats are mammals. They just think they're birds. Later on, we made a little brown bat stick puppets. It was fun, except I sort of made a mess with the glue. I spilled some on the floor, and Helen Zuckerman stepped in it. She was sort of upset. Oh well, nobody's perfect. Before cleanup, Mrs. Gleason reminded us about the field trip on Monday. We were going to Four Rivers Nature Preserve. We were going to take a bus, and 2 parents were coming with us. Everybody had to be prepared for rainy weather. Mrs. Gleason said that we were going rain or shine. "Spring is right around the corner," Mrs. Gleason said. "That means a lot of rain because all those flowers and trees need water to grow." Biggs Maloney said he hoped it would rain. That's Biggs for you. He's a stomping in mud puddles kind of guy. "What will we do when we get there?" Joey Pignato asked. Everybody knew the answer, even Joey. But it was like a good story. We wanted to hear it again. "A guide will lead us on a hike around Beaver Pond," Mrs. Gleason reminded us. "We'll look at all the animal habitats, where they live and what they eat. We'll observe and draw conclusions." "How do you draw a conclusion?" I piped up. "With crayons?" Everybody laughed, except for Mrs. Gleason. "Excuse me, Theodore Jones," she said. "I am very tired of people talking while I'm talking." Mrs. Gleason rubbed her eyes, and her body sort of sagged. I guess she really was tired. Mrs. Gleason took a deep breath. "We'll have a wonderful day. We'll have a picnic, and if the weather cooperates, we'll even end the trip with a treasure hunt." We couldn't wait. Sure, it wasn't Hofburg's Playland, but a walk in the woods sure beat school. "Okay, boys and girls," Mrs. Gleason said. "It's been a long, hard week. Time for your Friday cheer. Are you ready to scream your heads off?" We sure were. Mrs. Gleason counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For 10 seconds, we screamed our heads off. We hooted, we howled, we hollered and shouted. We shrieked, we screeched, we stomped, whomped, and roared. We yelled, we bellowed, and finally we mellowed. What a way to end the week. Chapter 4. In the Treehouse. When the weather was good, I used a treehouse in my backyard as an office. Sure, maybe it wasn't the greatest place ever built. It was lopsided, and it wobbled just enough to make you nervous, but it didn't matter to me. What mattered was, it was mine. See, the treehouse was supposed to be for all the kids in my family. Billy, Hillary, Nicholas, Daniel, and me. But I've pretty much taken it over. I climbed up there and waited for Mila and Ralphie. I set out a pitcher of grape juice and 3 cups. I took a sip. Suddenly, Mila's head popped up. "Boo!" she shouted. Grape juice squirted out my nose. "Mila, you could have given me a heart attack. Yeesh!" "Lighten up, Jigsaw," Mila said. "I was just practicing my sneak attacks. Pretty good, huh?" I admitted that she was a good sneak. "But next time," I said, "practice on someone else." Mila grinned. Hey, I asked, why didn't Rags bark? I gave him half a pretzel, Mila said. That'll keep him quiet. That was Rags for you. If you fed him once, he'd love you forever. I didn't mind. It was nice that Mila and Rags were becoming friends. See, Mila is allergic to fur. She had to stay away from Rags. But Mila started taking a new allergy medicine, and it worked, and I was glad. All that sneezing can get on a guy's nerves. I told Mila about my talk with Ralphie Jordan. She listened closely. Just then, Ralphie pedaled into my backyard. He leaned his bicycle against the tree. Rags watched him from his doghouse and barked twice. For Rags, that was his idea of making a big fuss. Ralphie climbed the ladder. He fished a torn, crumpled dollar from his pocket. Hold on to your money, I told him. I don't even know what you want me to do. I want you to make my problem go away, he said. What sort of problem? Mila asked. Ralphie glanced at Mila, then back at me. She won't laugh, will she? Not unless you tickle her feet with a feather, I answered. I pulled out my detective journal and I wrote, Friday, March 20th. Client, Ralphie Jordan. Go ahead, Mila urged. Nobody will laugh at you. Ralphie took a long, slow sip of grape juice. My house is haunted, he said. Chapter 5. The Scream of the Crime. I poured myself another drink. Ralphie continued, When I go to bed, I hear weird noises. It's probably just the wind, Mila explained. Does the wind go scritch, scratch across the walls? Ralphie asked. Does the wind go thump, thump, thump? Does it rattle chains and moan in the middle of the night? Maybe it's just a nighttime animal, I offered. Yes, Mila said. It could be a nocturnal animal, like an owl or a raccoon or a moose, I added. What? Mila asked. I wiggled my fingers behind my head like antlers. You know, I explained, a moose. Mila shook her head and sighed. She faced Ralphie. What did the moan sound like? Ralphie cupped his hands in front of his mouth. He started to moan, a long, low, spooky moan. Whoa, whoa. That was good enough for me. I opened my journal. I grabbed a marker and drew a picture of the suspect. It didn't exactly look like a ghost. Instead, I say it was pretty good drawing of an upside-down sock with eyes. Yeesh. I looked at Ralphie, then nodded toward my glass jar. Ralphie poked the dollar into the jar. What now? Ralphie asked. Now, Mila said, we visit the scene of the crime. We made it to Ralphie's in 3 minutes. His house, like Spring, was just around the corner. Ralphie lived in the biggest, oldest house on the block. It had 2 stories with a high, sloping roof. Ralphie brought us onto the front porch. Creak, creak. The chains of the bench swing groaned in the wind. My mother's visiting cousins in Georgia, Ralphie said. My father works at home, but I'm not allowed to bother him unless it's a real emergency. He brought us upstairs into his bedroom. It was a large, dark room with dark paneling on the walls. On one side, the ceiling came down in a sharp angle. It made the room feel cozy, kind of like a cave. I see you like scary stories, Mila said, eyeing his bookshelves. She tilted her head and read some of the titles out loud. In a dark, dark room. The Haunting of Grade 3. The Ghost in the Attic. I looked out the window into Ralphie's backyard. There was a garden below, and beyond that, a lone willow tree on a green lawn. Off to the right, his brother Justin was shooting hoops in the driveway. Hey, Mila, I said, can you see your house from here? Mila came to the window. You're right, Jigsaw. See that window? That's my room. I turned away and prowled Ralphie's bedroom with my eyes. Everything seemed normal. Well, I said, I don't see any signs of a ghost. What did you expect? Ralphie said. Ghosts are nocturnal. They only walk the earth at night. Well, there's nothing else I can do, Mila concluded. She folded her arms. Jigsaw has to spend the night. I do? I said. But, great, a sleepover, Ralphie yelled. I'll go ask my dad. Oh, brother, I always get the dirty work. All right, stay tuned for Chapter 6 tomorrow.